Hello, guys, and welcome back to Aetheral Space 8.22. What Rough Beast. I'm alone again, same day as the last one I recorded. As you can probably tell, I'm utterly exhausted. I'm gonna try and give my all as much as I can, but please be gentle if the voices are off or if there's not as much energy. I miss my friend Tanhony, but it's fine. We're gonna push through. And we're going to get this done. Thankfully, like the last one, this is only another 7-pager, so it shouldn't be too bad. Tanhony, if you're listening, just like last time, unless it's like a very obvious spelling or grammar mistake, I'm just going to leave a comment so you can look over it. So please, please, please read these back and edit them before you post them to Railroad. Okay, without further ado, let's get moving. The thing was not a spider. It was gargantuan, its body the size of the settlement it had displaced to emerge. Its hard carapace was so pitch black that it seemed to absorb the lights around it, to make them lesser. Though it roared and howled, it had no mouth. As it crawled out of the ravine, chunks of earth slipping off its back as it did so, its bizarre body plan came into view. One moment. It's so awkward to do this and stop to leave a comment. Remove plan here. 4 great legs on the front, 1 greater leg at the back. No eyes, no ears, only armor. This was a thing made to destroy, made from flesh remembered. A huge fleshy rope, like a tail, stretched from the beast's underside and back down into the bowels of the earth it had emerged from. It pulsed laboriously. The end of it was not visible. The Exocorp building glinted in the distance, and the beast wasted no time. In heresy against gravity, the 4 front legs of the monster rose high into the air and came down again some distance up ahead, the body pulling the strong back leg behind it and leaving a noticeable groove in the landscape. Immense amounts of heat evacuated the body through vents between the joints, rising up into the sky like the child of 1,000 chimneys. Again it roared, and a living mote of flesh poured out from the ruins of White Village in response. Like a great dead hand, foreshadowing, the beast dragged itself onwards. So I will say, very cool visuals here. I loved In Heresy Against Gravity. I will say, though, buddy, when it comes to your visualization, you need to get smells in there. You need to get some other senses. But so far, I'm pogged. Muzazi held one hand to his bandaged side in discomfort as they ran, ignoring the disapproving glance Murray sent his way. "I told you to stay put!" she snapped, skidding to a halt. "What part of that didn't you understand?" Muzazi quickly moved his hand away from his injury, putting on the bravest face he had. "The stimulants have helped heal much of the damage," he said unconvincingly. "I can hardly lay there while the enemy is at the gates." Catching up with the 2 of them, Hadrian spoke up. "She's right," he said, hands on his knees as he caught his breath. "Going around like you are now, you're at most going to be running at about 70% of your strength, and that's a very generous estimate." 70%, Muzazi mused, pulling luminescence free from its sheath with a screech of metal. "Then it seems I'm in fine form." Hadrian rolled his eyes. "I said at most 70! Before the disagreement could escalate into an argument, Marie put a finger to her communicator. "We need the window open here. Gives us eyes on what's going on." It seemed that, while Muzazi was out, she'd managed to acquit herself quite admirably with the security personnel. The shutters over the windows, which had been sealed at the beginning of the incident to prevent sniper fire, rumbled open, the glass behind them slowly being revealed. The orange permanence of the desert landscape quickly became visible, as did the massive black shape across it. Despite everything he'd seen so far, Muzazi couldn't help but gasp. Marie just stayed still, fingers still frozen on her communicator as she saw the Colossus on the other side of the desert. The Colossus that was slowly making its way towards them. Beside him, he'd heard Hadrian whisper, "What is that?" "Monster, dead boy," Pan replied, her tone infuriatingly carefree as she sat cross-legged on the carpet between Hazard and Muzazi. "Big monster." "Well, I can see that," Dragon angrily thought. "But what is it? I assume the other Panacea did this?" Pan nodded. "Probably. Other me made something new. Very difficult. Very angry, I think, when it gets here." Dragon paled. "What'll it do when it gets here?" "Kill you, dead boy. You said it. The other me needs you deader than anyone." I didn't say that, Dragon glared. I thought it. You were listening in? Always, dead boy. Enough of that. He didn't have time to play 20 questions with Pan, not with that thing coming their way. It was slow, he could see that as it dragged itself over the dunes, but it was big, and that always won out in the end. He stepped forward. It's after me. Musashi shot him a strange look. What? For what reason? Like I said, Dragon replied grimly, I have the benign panacea in my head. Who is benign, dead boy? Good line. I have the benign panacea in my head, and the other panacea wants to stop her from taking back over. Easiest way to do that now is to kill me. So I'm guessing it's coming over to crush the building and step on me. Musashi looked from Dragon to the beast in the distance, his hand worriedly squeezing the handle of his sword. Dragon didn't care how many cars Musashi could throw around. He wasn't taking on a monster the size of a mountain. Arc 1 throwback. Officer Hazard, he muttered, thumb tapping against his weapon. If you have any suggestions? Hazard's hand slowly lowered from her communicator, and she took a deep and shaky breath. Why can't Marie just load up on biomass and go like mano a mano, like a Godzilla Mothra type situation? It was a surreal thing to Dragon to see a gene tyrant showing signs of anxiety. Hell, to see a gene tyrant, period. If he hadn't known for a fact that Skipper had killed this woman more than once, he'd never guessed it. I think, she said quietly, that it's time for a group huddle. Aren't you dead? Skipper asked, sat in the plastic chair backwards. Aether, Hazard lied. I got better. A smirk tugged at Skipper's lips. Such magical stuff, huh? He shot back, his voice droll. Ruth, for her part, was more occupied by the ice sculpture that was now the centerpiece of this laboratory. The gene tyrant that had taken the place of Titan Hesiah had been frozen mid-transformation, flesh trapped between one grotesque form and the next. The silent roar still warping his face was enough to send chills down your spine, even without the frost on the glass. You guys fought this? Ruth asked, looking it up and down. Damn! We survived it, Musashi replied, wincing as a memory of the battle clearly came back to him. Oh no, are they going to pit Hesiah against this thing? As he spoke, he was watching Ruth carefully, his hand still on the hilt of his sword. Bruno, for his part, watched Musashi just as carefully, hand casually close to his holstered pistol. At the first sign of attack from anyone, this place would become a bloodbath. Disaster had a way of putting powder kegs, I feel like I can edit this safely, powder kegs together like this. Dragon was reasonably sure that every person in this room had tried to kill another person in this room at some time or another. Who's talking now? Oh, Dragon. Enough chit-chat, people, he called out, sliding his finger across the screen of his script. As he did so, the image displayed on it was projected as a hologram in their midst. A massive monster, covered in dark plates of armor, dragging itself across the desert, in their direction. It was the size of White Village, and from the speed it was moving, it was clearly strong enough to demolish the Exocorp building without much effort. Should be a comma here. Big boy! Skipper whistled. Hazard rolled her eyes. Thank you for the observation. It seemed Dragon had found a kindred spirit. Marie Hazard was another thing he found himself hesitating on. When his brain had put together those final connections as to her true identity, he hadn't believed it at first. But when he thought about it, really thought about it, it was the only thing that made sense. The gene tyrant that had replaced Titan Hesiah would have been one that had survived the 1,000 years since the Revolution. There was no way, after all that time, that he'd have been sloppy enough to accidentally expose himself to 2 special officers. If he'd been exposed, it would have been intentionally. And the only person a gene tyrant would intentionally reveal themselves to? Another of their own kind. For once, he had every intention of keeping quiet about it. The last thing he wanted was a pissed-off gene tyrant coming after him. His eyes returned to the holographic monster pulling itself across the sands. Ruth had stepped up to it, squatting down so as to look at it from an equal height. The hell is it? She muttered, cocking her head. Big spider? Bruno crossed his arms. There are vermin that look like that on this planet, but much smaller. I've seen them in the bathrooms. Ruth wrinkled her nose in disgust. Seriously? In the bathrooms? Serena's frown spread across Bruno's face. I know, she cried. It's so gross, right? If we could return to the topic at hand, Musashi cleared his throat, pointing his sword at the hologram. Judging from its speed and gait, we have around 4 hours until that beast reaches us. Once that happens, though, it'll be far too late to do anything about it. Do anything about it? Dragon raised an eyebrow. What exactly were you intending to do about it? Musashi answered as if it was a serious question. Intervene. It reminds me of that old meme. It's like, I would simply intervene. How? Dragon scoffed. That spider's a little too big for you to cut it up with your sword, isn't it? The special officer didn't answer straight away. Instead, he exchanged a glance with his partner, took a deep breath, and only then did he look to Dragon again. We were hoping you would have an answer for that. Dragon blinked. Huh? Hazard stuffed her hands into her pockets as she sauntered over to Dragon. He did his best to hide it, but his body tensed up as she approached. This was the thing that could probably bite his head off with the barest of efforts, after all. You said it yourself, she said, raising her eyebrows, more than once. You've got the benign panacea inside your head, waiting to take back control. Any insight you can give us? All eyes were on Dragon, even those of his own crew. Swallowing, he put a hand to his chin. Well, he ventured, right now the other Pan wants me dead specifically. I'm guessing she can sense where I am because of the connection she established during the last attack. If we move me somewhere else, maybe somewhere a little more remote, this thing might change direction to pursue me? At least that way the ticking clock wouldn't be so bad. Musashi clicked his tongue. That would be difficult. With an extravagant wave of his hand. Well, hold on, this thing's slow as fuck because of its size. Why can't Dragon just drive circles around it and keep it stalled in a circle? This is a dumb plan. That would be difficult. With an extravagant wave of his hand, the hologram zoomed in, displaying the horde of teeming repurpose that flowed like an ocean around the monster's feet. They're considerably faster than the beast itself. If we tried to get you away using the means available to us, it's almost certain they'd catch up to us outside the safety of this building. Bruno muttered a curse. So they saw our strategy coming. It would appear so. Well, that answered my question immediately, based hand. Another glance was exchanged between Musashi and Hazard. He nodded, just slightly. I'm not sure. Question mark? Tan? And she began speaking. Building on that idea, though, she held up a finger, my and Officer Musashi's ship is still intact, as far as we know. If one of us, not Hadrian, was to go and retrieve it, bring it back here, we could take him up into space and out of this thing's reach. I mean, she gestured towards the hologram, it's not exactly flying, right? That did sound like a good idea. Dragon opened his mouth to agree, but was cut off by the voice in his head. No, dead boy, Pan frowned, sitting upon a desk. Will not work. Dragon sighed. Pan says it won't work. Hazard's raised finger fell limp. Well, does she say why? She asked, annoyance obvious in her tone. Too far away, Pan answered. I cannot become if we are in space. We lose our chance. Red me wins if we leave planet. Dragon was in the middle of relaying that back when Skipper interrupted. He had been quiet for a while, eyes flicking from one speaker to the next. Gotta say, guys, he said, cracking his neck, all these plans aren't really doing it for me. It's all run away, run away. How come we can't stand and fight? Hazard looked down at him, eyes cold. You want to fight that thing? She asked. We can't fight that. It'd crush us just by accident. Nah, Skipper grinned his easy grin. I'm just going to put awkward wording, but up to you. Hang on. Awkward wording, but your style choice. Of course we can fight it, if we've got a plan. And you do? Musashi asked. Skipper stood up from his chair, kicking it out of the way as he strode forward to the hologram. Course I do. Tell me what you make of this, guys and gals. He flicked his fingers, and the angle of the hologram shifted, displaying the strange cord that was protruding from the beast's underside. The fleshy tendril trailed behind the monster, falling into the ravine it had emerged from and leading down into the darkness. Serena nodded sagely. That's its dick! She thumped her fist into her palm. No, it is not genitalia, Musashi declared. He turned his gaze to Skipper. I was wondering about this as well. You've identified it? Maybe, Skipper tapped the holographic cord with his foot, and it fizzled in the air. I've been thinking, if the repurposed could bust something out this big, why not do it from the start? Would have saved them a lot of trouble. The pieces connected in Dragon's head. Because it's risky. Correctamundo, Mr. Adrian. Skipper waved a metal finger. The other repurposed, apart from the dead hand, operated on instinct too, while this one guy's an... Well, one's got an objective in mind. I'm thinking that chord's something... I'm thinking that chord's some kind of direct connection. Hold on. Yeah, I'm thinking that chord's some kind of direct connection, letting the panacea control this body it's created. So, Musashi nodded. We sever that cord, we disable the beast. And correctamundo, Mr. Musashi. Skipper waved the finger again. Hazard bit her lip, looking the hologram up and down. Did I do that right? Should it be an apostrophe here? I'm just gonna go with my gut. Tan, you know what to do if it's wrong. Hazard bit her lip, looking the hologram up and down. She put a hand on her hip. You're making it sound easy. That chord's gonna be just as regenerative as the rest of the repurposed. You'd have to get through the whole thing in one shot. That'd be difficult. Well, Skipper grinned, cracking his good knuckles. Cracking his... Oh, because he has one hand. Lucky for you, I'm a pretty difficult guy. All right. So... I see. Okay. So I think I've got all the edits down. I thought that was another good chapter. Last one was good too. It's really weird trying to edit when Tan's not here. It's hard to for me to edit and talk at the same time. So sorry for the awkwardness of that and all the other stuff. But I'm doing my best here. And I do have another fun fact for you fellas. So fact number 2. The Ascendant General is the rank given to the Supreme Commander of the Supremacy's military forces. While he is sworn to follow the commands of the Supreme, actual military strategy and logistics fall to him. So the more you know. So all the military operations are sort of held by him. But I did check with Tan, and he confirmed that it's a separate structure from the contenders in the Supreme themselves. All right. So thank you guys for listening as always. And hopefully next time onward, I will be back with Tan together again with my friend whom I miss. And it will be less awkward, and it will be more fun, and you'll have more energy from Darnell, yada, 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 blah, 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 enough self-deprecating stuff. All right. See you guys next time.